The recent breakthrough of Russian troops to the center of the strategically important settlement of New York caused a real shock to experts and analysts from numerous Western think tanks. The fact is that no one in the West expected that Russian troops would be able to cope so quickly with the powerful strongholds of the armed forces of Ukraine and New York, and take control of the central part of this urban-type settlement. Later it turned out that to break through the defense of the armed forces of Ukraine and New York, Russian troops again used the so-called tactics of underground tunnels. The fact is that the central part of New York was taken under the control of Russian troops thanks to an underground tunnel 80 centimeters wide. It is reported that Russian soldiers dug this underground tunnel for several nights, in an atmosphere of complete secrecy, as a result of which several groups of Russian Spetsnaz managed to get to the rear of the Ukrainian soldiers, bypassing powerful strongholds. It was precisely thanks to these actions, the Russian troops managed to take control of the central part of New York, without incurring significant losses in manpower and heavy military equipment. At the same time, it is worth noting that this is the third in a row recorded case when the Russian army used an underground tunnel to capture a powerful stronghold of the armed forces of Ukraine. Earlier, Russian troops also used underground tunnels to capture powerful fortified areas of the armed forces of Ukraine in such settlements as Avdiivka and Kirovo. It is curious that seeing the admiration from Western military experts and analysts for the actions of Russian soldiers to capture such a powerful fortified area in New York, the Kyiv regime in all seriousness stated that it was North Korean soldiers who helped Russian troops dig an underground tunnel and capture the center of this urban-type settlement. Moreover, Ukrainian military experts and some Telegram channels also began to claim that it was North Korean military engineers who dug an underground tunnel under New York, as a result of which the center of this settlement was captured without any problems by Russian troops. As evidence, Ukrainian experts referred to information from the South Korean TV company, TV Chosun, which in all seriousness stated that 5 engineering and sapper brigades of the North Korean army were preparing to be sent to Ukraine, including to restore the cities of the liberated Donbass, Kherson, and Zaporizhia regions. Russian reputable military experts and influential Telegram channels have already responded to this statement from the Ukrainian side. According to them, Russian soldiers and officers from a specialized brigade under the designation veterans made a tunnel under New York. Moreover, it is reported that against the background of numerous failures of the armed forces of Ukraine on the battlefield, the head of the Kyiv regime Vladimir Zelensky ordered Ukrainian news resources and pro-government Telegram channels to spread fake claims that North Korean soldiers are allegedly already on the battlefield and actively help Russian troops capture Ukrainian cities and villages. All this is being done in order to force the North Atlantic Alliance to officially introduce its armies into the territory of Ukraine, to eliminate the so-called new threat. However, unfortunately for the Kyiv regime, numerous statements about the presence of North Korean soldiers on the battlefield led to the opposite results. As it turned out, the Ukrainian soldiers, who were forced to retreat in almost all directions of the front under the onslaught of Russian troops, became even more discouraged and desperate when they heard about the presence of North Korean soldiers on the battlefield. Moreover, even Western experts noted the fact that even NATO itself reacted with alarm to Kyiv's statements about the presence of North Korean soldiers on the battlefield. Many Western experts have noted that NATO armies, including the United States, will never dare to openly engage in combat operations against Russian paratroopers and North Korean soldiers. The fact is that even Western experts recognize the fact that the Russian army is winning on the battlefield, and that Moscow does not yet see any sense in deploying not only soldiers from North Korea but also from Belarus on the battlefield. Many are convinced that Russia can approve the presence of soldiers of its military allies on the battlefield only if NATO decides to the massive deployment of its troops to the territory of Ukraine. However, in the West, many are sure that this will never happen because NATO understands perfectly well that if North Korea sends its soldiers to Ukraine, the Russian army will gain a numerical advantage over all the armies of the North Atlantic Alliance. In addition, Moscow will also receive highly motivated North Korean soldiers, who will be ready to do anything to fulfill the order given to them. Now it became clear precisely what Vladimir Putin wanted to achieve during his visit to North Korea. The fact is that the Russian president is well aware that his army is winning on the battlefield in Ukraine, even though many soldiers and officers of the armies of NATO countries are fighting on the side of the armed forces of Ukraine, posing as so-called foreign mercenaries. Putin is well aware that the nearer Russia's victory in Ukraine, the higher the risk that the hotheads in Washington and Brussels still decide to the massive deployment of NATO troops to the territory of Ukraine. And it was precisely the signing of the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang that cooled the hotheads in the United States and Europe, and gave Russia guarantees that the West, despite its numerical advantage in manpower, would be afraid to send its troops into Ukraine, since in this case, the NATO armies would have to confront not only Russian soldiers, but also highly motivated soldiers from North Korea. By the way, commenting on the NATO Anniversary Summit in Washington, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said that the North Atlantic Alliance no longer hides the fact that NATO is waging a real war against Russia with the help of Ukraine. Against this backdrop, he made a rather shocking statement. In particular, he said that in order to ensure Russia's national security, Moscow will do everything to ensure that Ukraine's path to NATO ends with the complete disappearance of not only Ukraine itself, but also the North Atlantic Alliance.